All right, take a deep breath, everybody. Wish us luck.
Let's get this show on the road. Okay, hello, can you hear us?
Hi, what's up?
Well, we are about to start the show. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fuck.
Okay.
Ready.
Welcome one and all to yet another episode of Wick TV. It's a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today we are going to be talking about what I consider a very important issue. Should we be courting the far left? What or who do we consider the far left? Which is more of a threat to America in general? The question was asked, who would you vote for, Hassan or Trump? And I think it's an interesting thought experiment to go through. There were some disagreements, so I thought I'd gather people together to hash those out and have a discussion on it. Just a note before we begin, I know there's some tensions are high in different communities and things like that, so I might be a little more heavy-handed on moderation than I normally would be, because I do want the topic itself to be discussed at least a little. But other than that, I'm just going to give the mic to you guys and let you guys go at it. We're going to hand the mic first to Econoboi, give his thoughts, and then we'll just kind of go around. Econoboi, start us off.
Yeah. So, for those listening, the topic is courting the far left. I take that to be essentially a political and strategic discussion about whether or not and how exactly we should or should not court the far left. And the way that I think of the far left, there's a lot of polls on this. Based on all the research that I was able to do, about 10% of people that vote for Democrats call themselves socialist, and about another 10% call themselves extremely liberal. So if we were to think Kamala got about 49% of the vote, that's to say that something like 10% of those people are either extremely liberal or socialist by their self-identification. And so I think that what that means to me is that we should take what those people say, those actually existing far left voters, seriously, that to the extent that they have demands, they should have a seat at the table. We should try to come up with some sort of coalition and platform that can balance the needs and desires of the far left and the very, very centrist in the party, recognizing that we're in a big tent. And then when it comes to anti-electoral leftists and anti-democratic leftists, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the show, I think that to the extent that those people have big platforms, Democrats should engage with those platforms. So if Pete Buttigieg wants to go on Hassan's stream and espouse the greatness of his campaign or the Democratic Party or something, I don't really have a big problem with that. But I don't think that people like that should be part of the inner party or should be invited to the DNC. Somebody like Mamdani, if he becomes the mayor of New York, probably should get a speaking spot at the DNC, but probably not people like Hassan, because it's not clear to me that Hassan is quote unquote an ally of the Democratic Party. And what I'll say is one last thing. I'll say that, I think Destiny had said at some point, he had clarified that essentially people who use the label of socialist should be treated like Nazis. I take that to mean that they should be very harshly socially excluded from the broader movement of the Democratic Party or the broader left. But I think that would be extremely counterproductive because, again, these are just a big chunk of the people of the Democratic Party. I think I get accused of wanting to shrink the tent because I want to primary pro-filibuster senators, right? on ideological grounds. But I think to say that we should shun basically everyone that calls themselves a socialist in the Democratic Party, that's to say that we should shun essentially 10% of the base, which is, I don't know, I just think that's much more counterproductive than just trying to build a coalition with them.
Okay, thank you, and we will get into it as we go. I'm going to hand the mic next to Pisco. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it obviously depends on what you mean by court and what you mean by the far left. So obviously, I would be in support if by far left you mean people like Mamdani, people like AOC, these kinds of people who identify, Bernie Sanders as a socialist. I think that there are absolutely things that we can agree on with socialists, and we're a big tent enough coalition if what you mean by far left includes those people. But ultimately, this is a conversation I think about semantics. What is the far left? Who are the group of people who are anti-liberal or anti-constitutional that you want to exclude? And to what extent do you want to exclude them? Does exclude mean invite them, don't invite them to create a party platform? Does exclude mean not interact with them in any respect, even as Econoboi mentioned, to use their platform either for a debate or to promote the candidacy or to try to convince people? I don't know if I'll go that far. I certainly wouldn't want to incorporate any Marxist-Leninist ideas into the Democratic platform if that's what's being meant by courting the voters or courting the far left. So ultimately, it's a semantic argument, but we're not here for that. We're here because, in my opinion, there's been a bad faith campaign to basically smear me and Econoboi and Josiah as having moved to the far left, as having put space in our coalition to really allow for anti-democratic, anti-constitutional ideas and to not push back on them. And I think what you'll find that there are tensions right now, I think, in the different coalitions, the different viewer bases, but they don't have to do with a big substantive disagreement. I encourage everyone who's watching, actually look during the course of this conversation, how much disagreement substantively is there going to be? If we're talking about like this semantic game about what a socialist is a socialist a Nazi? Stephen is going to just fucking get crushed on that argument by Econoboi in terms of what a normal person means by the term socialist and how those terms are used. If he can produce any evidence whatsoever that me, Econoboi, or anyone on Live and Learn did something wrong in like bringing on the vanguard, notice if he can bring up anything that shows that we are taking a kind of illiberal approach or trying to do some kind of bad faith, like a courting of the tanky vote. If he can point to any specifics, or really just going to have more fucking nitpicking on the sides while he encourages and frankly, I think smears us as tankies, anti-liberal, and anti-constitutional. So I'm here definitely to get clarity on terms and to notice actually what is the room of substantive disagreement here, or is all of this a fugazi to cover up spite and personal conflict between him and other streamers, and is there really evidence that we're moving to the tanky left or the illiberal left?
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that. Let's give it first to CounterPoints. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my issue with this whole thing is that there are socialists, which I define, I think, in a good faith way for the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. There are also communists who believe that the end result of our material analysis should be a moneyless, stateless, classless society. I think these people exist. I think they have clout. I think they have influence. And I would use specific examples in our sphere of influence, like Erin or Straight Raid, who says that she's a communist. I would use the examples like Hassan Piker, who I just watched earlier today, is effectively holding hands with Marxist-Leninists and saying that he is a Marxist-Leninist. He's just, playing softy with the Social Democrats and the Democratic Socialists. That way he can get clout and influence and then radicalize them down a funnel. So for me, what I'm trying to point out is that if you pretend that this person is normal and nice and fine and a part of the coalition, then you're going to lose the moderates, you're going to lose the center right, and for every leftist you gain, you probably lose 2 or 3 moderates. So, the Vanguard, I have no idea what their politics are. I would frankly love to speak to them specifically about their politics. But if MLs are a part of the coalition, you're losing people. You're being politically ineffective. That's my argument.
Okay, thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, Destiny, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that when I was making the rounds debating Nazis in 2016 to 2018, one of the most common things that I heard from kind of like the centrists that basically gave more credence to all of the far right ideas was point to where I support this. Show me where I said that I'm racist. Show me where I said that I hate Jewish people, or I'm anti-Semitic, or I'm, trying to be a white supremacist. And there was always this like annoying fight that I would have to do where in order to start debating the Nazis, I'd have to chew through all of these epic centrists first who would say, well, I'm just a classical liberal. I'm Sargon of Akkad. I'm not actually a white supremacist. I just happen to give cover for all of these people. I don't think Econoboi or Pisco or Josiah or any of these other people, I don't think they're becoming tankies or anything like that. I just think there's a very annoying cover that's given to a lot of these people where there's like, we can 100% discern and decipher every single intention that Donald Trump has. We have no problem calling him a fascist outright. But then when you have people that hate the Democrats, that shit on our candidates, that attack everybody on our side constantly, we're like, well, I don't know what they really think or how they really feel. Or when it comes to people like Hassan, like even earlier today in my subreddit, Econoboi, when asked about supporting Hassan, will say things like, well, I don't think I necessarily agree with him on everything. He says, I don't have a generally positive view of Hassan, and I think I would flatly agree with many of the criticisms levied at Hassan. That's just in my mind, even though it seems like there's some kind of separation there. That's just a wild statement to make from somebody who openly supports terrorist groups that kill civilians, or openly supports enemies of the United States, or openly supports the subversive propagandizing of our entire political party to hijack the entire movement to destroy if not the Democratic Party, maybe even all of the entire United States of America. So I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't think that it's I don't think it behooves us to just say all of this is a semantic disagreement. I think it's actually really important to define what a leftist is, because I think that it's important for the people to know where everybody stands, and it's important to get rid of people that are intentionally trying to obscure their beliefs and come in under the guise of being a leftist without actually stating, what their position is, and then having this this dual role that they get to play where they can propagandize people and radicalize them without actually ever stating what it is they're trying to do. Are you for the complete and total abolition of our democracy, or are you just somebody who wants the government to do more stuff?
And just to get clarity, so we know what we're talking about, Destiny, are you saying that Econoboi and Pisco are running cover for those leftists that you think are infecting the Democratic Party, or however you want to put it, right?
Yes, but I don't think it's like like they're secretly tanky and so they want to provide cover for their tanky friends. I think it's more just like this. There's something that happens in the Democrat brain, and I've been guilty of it too, where you're so obsessively trying to seem like even-handed that you get rooted out in this world where you're like, I'm trying to be fair and I don't want to have like Hassan derangement syndrome, so I'm just going to say, they're not that bad. I don't know that much about any of this. I'm not sure, whatever. But what it causes is this reality where, the conversation for this podcast, what was talked about earlier, was should we appeal to leftists when it comes to gaining political power? When do leftists talk about appealing to liberals to try to gain political power? Or when do leftists say, hey, maybe we should chill on shitting on the party, forever and ever when it comes to getting political power? Like, why is the conversation only ever on the Democratic side of things? That's just very wild to me.
Okay. The floor is open. Go ahead.
Should some socialists? Anyway, I have a question.
Please go.
I have a question. Yeah. So this is both to Connor and to Stephen. Should some socialists, at least some, be catered to, be appealed to, and be part of the coalition?
No.
So you would agree, therefore, that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Mamdani should not be catered to and part of the coalition, correct?
Depends on what you mean when you say catered to. So, for instance,
ahead of a ticket being a socialist like AOC, Mamdani, if they are the nominees, should we support them?
Yes, but that doesn't mean you're catering to socialism.
So, okay, but you understand.
Wait, hold on, wait. You recognize that supporting somebody at the top of a ticket. Well, if you want to play the yes or no question, I can play the same game. Yeah. You understand that supporting somebody being at the top of the ticket doesn't mean that you are centrally supporting their ideology. For instance, it's possible to cater to, in a roundabout way, people that are further to the left of you without catering to far leftist beliefs, right?
Correct, but you would agree, like, if a socialist is at the top of the ticket, socialist like Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party should support the socialist at the top of the ticket, correct?
It depends what you mean by support, but generally, yeah, I think you should support who's assuming
so
you're
okay with socialists being part of the coalition, correct?
I don't really know if I consider Bernie Sanders or AOC to be like socialists.
And why is that exactly?
Because I don't think that they like fit under conventional definitions of socialism. It's more kind of like
the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production.
Yeah, so that's your definition. That's your proprietary definition of socialism.
That's
but you agreed.
Most socialist definition.
So for example,
do you disagree with my definition?
Yeah. Okay. So just to hop in here. So yeah, I disagree that is. Okay, do you want me to answer the question, Connor?
Give Econoboi space to answer. Go ahead, Econoboi.
So, I want you to do a line of Adderall.
Let Econoboi answer. Go ahead.
I probably should have done an edible instead of Adderall before entering this debate. But to answer your question, similar to capitalism, socialism is a diverse universe of people. There's a lot of people who call themselves socialists. Some of them are Marxist-Leninists. Some of them are like what you might call like moderate, like right-wing socialists, I guess, like me, who say that we should just collectivize the ownership of production. People have different ways of defining these things. For instance, capitalism includes people all the way from Fabian Liberty to people like Destiny, who basically endorses the Nordic model, right? And they're both capitalists, right? And so I think that of the 10% of people who call themselves socialists and are part of the Democratic Party base, obviously that's a very diverse group of people, ranging from the exact, essentially, people that I just mentioned as well. And I think that's a very sensible way to look at who calls themselves socialist and why. To Destiny's point of
Mamdani's not a socialist or that Bernie's not a socialist. That's crazy.
Just one more sentence. To Destiny's point about when do like the left wingers ever cater to the moderates? Well, I mean, I seem to remember people like Bernie Sanders and AOC taking very collaborative positions with people like Biden when he was in office. And I seem to recall like Mamdani he took a very collaborative position with people like Brad Lander. And Mamdani's campaign, to the extent that it appealed to people broader than just the left wing, he made that conscious decision to do that. He didn't run on a campaign of seizing the means of production. He ran on a campaign of like freezing the rent and providing childcare to people, right? I mean, I take that to be in some sense a means to cater to a broader base of people than just left wingers, essentially.
So I think that if we want to talk about catering to socialists, I think that the issue that we have is there exists a world where you only have, or you have a bunch of like Bernie Sanders, AOC, maybe Mamdani types of people that are part of your movement and part of your coalition. And I think that if we lived in a world where there was a rich media environment with a lot of people who were socialists, who, you know, some supported the liberals, some kind of didn't, and some were like really against it, then we could have that conversation. But right now, it seems basically ubiquitous across the entirety of the left-wing media landscape to aggressively and violently shit on and attack Democratic candidates as harshly as possible. I just saw, and I'm sure you guys saw, that Vanguard tweet saying that Pete Buttigieg looked like and smelled like a rat. Pete is one of the most like popular Democratic figures making the rounds on shows. I just watched Crystal Ball fucking roast the fuck out of a senator from Michigan because she wouldn't give like the singular one answer on the Gazan issue. If this is the world we're going to live in, where you want to say, oh, well, socialism encompasses a broad range of people, but when I look to the media environment, almost every single person that would even flirt with the label socialist relentlessly shits on the Democratic Party. I don't know if I can really say, yeah, sure, we should also appeal to these people. It's just not the right media environment for it.
There's a definitional issue here, which is you're saying that Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani are not socialists. Explain that.
That's not really responsive to anything I just said. So
no, because you were not responsive to the issue at hand, which has to do with the definition. Yeah. So the question is, if you're defining socialism to only include the people that Steven doesn't like, then maybe there's not actually a disagreement here in terms of who like should be leading the party or something.
So I wasn't defining socialism as people I don't like. I was defining socialism. So we can talk about definition of socialism. What I'm looking at right now is the socialist media environment. My earlier argument was that I don't know if I would even consider like Bernie Sanders and AOC to be hardcore socialists. If I wanted to supply that argument,
I didn't say hardcore.
If I
socialists at all.
Sure, socialists at all. Well, right now, who are the socialists all shitting on almost more than anybody else? AOC and Bernie Sanders. So I mean, it seems like
whether
that's
they're
not a great
shitting on them or
environment.
not, Stephen. Whether they're shitting them or not isn't the question. That's a separate question. Are they shitting or not shitting? The question is, should socialists be part of the coalition? You just said that Bernie isn't a socialist. He identifies as such.
So
AOC's not a socialist. She identifies as such. Mamdani isn't a socialist. She identifies as such. What's your evidence they're not socialists?
So identifying as a political thing doesn't make you that political thing. That's a tautology, and that would be nonsense, number one. And number two, the question wasn't should they be part of the coalition. The question is should we appeal to them. Those are two fundamentally completely different questions.
But Destiny, to be clear though, you're narrowing your position. It was just last night when you said explicitly anyone that uses the socialist label should be treated like a Nazi, right?
In the media environment, in the media environment is what we're talking about. Though I'm commenting on your show.
You clarified then, Destiny. Okay, well that's what you said last night. If you're clarifying just people within the media environment, then I'm just saying that that's a useful narrowing of the discussion.
You can call it a narrowing if you want, but anybody that's watched any, like, I don't shit on AOC, I don't shit on Bernie Sanders even, and I've been supportive of Mamdani for the election.
I think useful is one way to put about it. I think useful is one way to put it. I think Weasley is another way to put it, and I think it is Weasley. I think you're backing off of the strong position. The strong position is socialists shouldn't be a part of socialists shouldn't be a part of our fucking coalition. And now when you're getting pushed, I guess now it's the media environment. But you were
I didn't say socialists shouldn't be part of the coalition. I said we shouldn't be trying to actively appeal to socialists. Do you understand that those are two separate things?
They're different statements. They're correct. They're different statements.
No. They mean fundamentally two completely different things.
They're two different statements that mean different things. They're two different statements that mean two different things. But your position, is it your position, therefore, that the Democrats should, as part of their coalition in terms of who to vote for, what kind of policy support, to humor people like Mamdani, humor people like AOC, and humor people like Bernie Sanders? And if that's the truth, then I think
I don't know what that
statement
like means. Should they humor them? Like, what does that mean? Like, put them on the ballot? Well, I don't know what that question means. Like,
should they have a seat at the table? Whatever you take that.
What is a seat at the table? Like, if they go to the Outback Steakhouse?
That's what I'm asking you. So, for example, you're the one who says that we need to excise these people from the party. I actually don't know what you mean by that. So, whatever your vision of having a seat at the table, not being excised is, whatever you're using when you say these people need to be gone, under that definition, do you think? Okay.
Sure. Let's let Destiny. Those are good questions, Pisco, and I'd like to know the answers too. Right? What do you mean, Destiny, when you say we need to excise these people? Like, how do you?
Yeah,
see
my
that
fixation
playing
is
out?
almost universally on the media environment when I'm having these conversations. I think when I was watching you guys talk, it was also generally on the, although sometimes you guys would try to go back to AOC, but like politicians operate kind of in a different world than the media environment operates in. Most of my criticism on the media environment that all calls themselves like leftists or socialists seem to relentlessly shit on Democrats. And I just think it's a really unhealthy and bad world, again, where you see a Michigan senator wants to dip her toes into the podcasting world. And one of the jokes I made about Kamala is one of the reasons why she probably didn't do any shows is because she would get fucked by the right, the centrist, and the left, and she goes on a leftist show and she gets fucking shit on because they only want to talk about fucking Palestine. This is a senator from a blue state, from Michigan. Jesus, that's insane to me. And it would be nice if we actually had like a strong center-left position and a strong center-left media apparatus, and not just a bunch of leftists who fucking hate the party and just want to shit on us all day.
Do you understand our position to be that we disagree with your assessment that leftists constantly shit on the Democrats? Do you think that we disagree on that?
I'm not sure all the time. I can't tell.
So you're not sure. So we're here to discuss something where you're not sure if we agree with you on the position that the lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways we don't like. We agree that lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways that we don't like. We agree with Hutch, for example, when they constantly shit on people like Biden in certain ways, even though I shit on Biden in some respects. We agreed on the AOC tweets that they shouldn't have shit on her that way. And so there's no disagreement there. So that obviously isn't what we're here to discuss on a point where you're unsure that we disagree on.
I wasn't saying that we had I was asserting strongly that we massively disagreed there. So, okay, what was CounterPoints say? Sorry.
I got something I massively disagree with. So, okay. I think that every single leftist that I've talked to online, anybody who has any kind of political knowledge whatsoever, defines socialists as decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production, and they use that definition repeatedly. I think that my frustration is that there are a bunch of quote unquote social democrats who talk about universal health care, or they talk about, making rent cheaper or some shit like that, which are social democratic Scandinavian policies. And I think they're using the term socialism backdoor in order to rehabilitate the image of this. And not just that, Hassan Piker and plenty of far lefties, plenty of MLs, probably the Vanguard as well, they're ecstatic that this is happening. They're ecstatic that Mamdani has social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that AOC have social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that Bernie Sanders have social democrat policies because it rehabilitates the word in my mind. That shift of the Overton window to
or
the
maybe they agree with the
policy
policy.
An insidious plot by twats to manipulate the Democratic Party.
So I'll ask you, Connor,
and it's going to ruin electoralism.
So we're going to get some actual clarity here. So to be clear, Stephen, you don't disagree that people like Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie, they're fine to be in the party, and we're fine to appeal to the kind of issues that they care about in their positions, correct? You don't have a problem with that?
I would hold on.
I'm asking Stephen a question. I'm going to get to you and see if you disagree with Stephen, actually.
Second, I want to say something before you and Destiny talk for the next 40 fucking minutes. What I would say is that if the socialists are proposing social democrat policy, but then they get what they want, and then they try to yank the political window further left, that is something 100% that I oppose. Destiny, you and Pisco, go ahead and fight for the next.
I just want to ask, and I'll ask. I'm going to go to you, Connor, and see if you agree with Destiny, because I think we might all have a more disagreement with you, Connor, than we have within each other in terms of the substantive opinion. So I'm going to ask Stephen, do you have a problem with these people, the people identified, Mamdani, Sanders, AOC, being part of the Democratic coalition, and however you define Democratic coalition, and having their positions catered to, or people having their positions in general as part of the Democratic coalition? Do you have a problem with that?
Okay, so there's two separate questions. So one, like generally, I'm probably almost always going to support a blue candidate over a red candidate in this current media environment, or in this current political environment, number one. But number two, when you say, do you have a problem appealing to them? That means different things. If you say, like, would I have a problem if we were to appeal to Bernie Sanders coming out and saying, I want to socialize all of the means of productions in the United States, I would have a problem with that. But if you're saying, do you have a problem appealing to Bernie and AOC and Mamdani saying, we need to find ways to make, rent cheaper in cities, and that might mean a policy like rent control that I personally don't like, but if they want to try it, I wouldn't be like fundamentally opposed to having that as part of my party's platform. Then no, it would depend on what things we're talking about appealing to.
Agreed. You're okay with the socialist being at the top of the Democratic ticket in the sense of socialist.
But again,
in the Bernie Sanders
this is part of the issue. You call it
correct. Is that right or no?
You can't.
Am I wrong?
This is not like a simple thing. You're like doing like the what is a woman at me? What is a socialist? The issue here
I'm
is
asking you. Do you have a problem with Bernie Sanders being at the top of the ticket?
You got to let Destiny.
That's a specific question.
Top of the ticket? No. If him being a senator from Vermont, no. If he was president, probably not. But when you say a socialist, if you're talking about somebody who wants to abolish by law all of private enterprise and maybe even attack the democratic underpinnings of our political parties, right, and have a single party rule, I would be opposed to that.
But that doesn't describe Bernie. It doesn't describe Mamdani. It doesn't describe AOC.
No,
correct?
but Mamdani, Bernie, and AOC are on the outer perimeter of what is considered socialist, and they're attacked by the center part of what is socialist. That's my issue. You could probably find an outer perimeter fascist that I might be okay with. If he's some fascist who's like, yeah, I think we should protect America as an ethno-state, and I'm defining ethno-state as like the current ethnic composition of America, and I think that we should have like stronger rules on immigration. I was like, yeah, I probably fucking support this dude or whatever.
The problem is that, like, and you understand, and Econoboi would lay this out, that Bernie, AOC, these types, they come from a long tradition of democratic socialists from like UK, Australia. He brought up Clement Attlee, and this is not some fringe movement. These are democratic socialists that exist in countries all over the world. So we're not talking about this idiosyncratic belief of socialism. It's a version of socialism that exists, and you're okay with it being part of the party. So the question isn't one of categorical. You're okay with some socialists. You would vote for some socialists. I'll ask Connor the same question. Connor, are you okay with someone like Bernie Sanders being on the top of the ticket, AOC being on the top of the ticket of the Democratic Party?
No, I would either abstain from voting or I would fucking vote against them. Like, for instance, if there's a moderate Republican compared to AOC or Bernie, not that moderate Republicans exist anymore, but if they existed, I would pick a moderate Republican over AOC or Bernie.
I think the bigger disagreement's between you and Destiny there. I think Destiny's going
well,
to
to be clear,
in a part of the Democratic coalition.
Connor's a Republican, so I would expect him to say that. Yeah, no shit. But voting for somebody is a lot different than appealing to somebody. These are two different things, and we keep playing like this like clever game of trying to swap one out for the other.
Where do you think? To describe us.
Hold on, let Destiny finish his thought.
Well, that's it. No, I'm just saying that like appealing to somebody is a lot different than voting for somebody. I'm guessing if I was in New York and there was a plethora of candidates, Mamdani probably wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd probably vote for him in the primary, or I'm sorry, in the general. But that doesn't mean I would like want to appeal to a socialist or whatever.
But I agree that
like we have to. I think there's a useful thing to look at what this actually looks like in actually existing politics, right? So in 2016, when Bernie Sanders got 45% of the vote in the primary, something like that. He was involved in the platform committee for the DNC. He was like a main speaker at the DNC in 2016. He was able to extract a lot of concessions to the party. Like, I think that because of him, the party added in marijuana legalization, a $15 hour minimum wage, I think carbon pricing, and I think maybe there was some stuff about the death penalty. I want to say that was something that Bernie Sanders really pushed to add into the Democratic Party platform. You know, and again, that's like a very direct appeal to Bernie Sanders and like an appeal to the unity between the centrists and the socialists and the Democratic Socialists.
No, nothing. What policy there was socialist?
Okay, so
because here's where we're going to run into the problem, because nothing that you just said there was socialist, and there's this game that's played where
Destiny, you're wrong about that. You're completely wrong.
15 an hour is socialist?
Okay, do you think a progressive income tax is socialist?
Not necessarily, no.
Right. So the Communist Manifesto proposed a progressive income tax, right? So
does that make it a socialist policy?
I would say, generally speaking, that the Communist Manifesto, the manifesto of the Communist Party, like it probably is something of an authority on what it means to be a communist.
The Communist Manifesto is a pamphlet made so that farmers could read it and join a violent revolution against the state. Is that really where we're going by the defining document of what all like what like there are going to be aspects of communism and socialism that are shared by liberalism and democracy.
Oh my God, this is so bad faith. So Econoboi brings up a point. He says, "Is this policy socialist?" And as sort of embodied in the Communist Manifesto, and you go a broader point, say, "Well, the Communist Manifesto has this other purpose." That's not the question on the table.
That's not the point. So that's not the point. So the point is that it's not about whether or not we would semantically define something like a progressive income tax as communist or not communist. It's about these broader movements and what their general ideological disposition is on all of the different set of possible positions within the policy debate. So I would agree to your point that like in terms of socialism being the decommodification of labor and also like the collective ownership of the means of production, if that's the way that you define socialism, then obviously these aren't like socialist policies, quote unquote, but that doesn't mean that you're not appealing to like the broader socialist movement and the broader like socialist apparatus of advocacy when you propose things like a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Clarity, or Econoboi, just for clarity, so I understand, you're saying when you say I want to appeal to socialists, you're saying things like, oh, pick policies that socialists would also like.
I'm saying that insofar as socialists and very progressive Democrats are a part of the actually existing base of Democratic voters, they should have some proportional say in things like party leadership positions, committee assignments, the platform of the Democratic Party, fundraising distribution, activist-based organizing, strategic discussions. They should have some kind of proportional say in all of those discussions.
But the problem is those people, if they truly identify as socialists and not just like liberal light or socialist light or whatever we're calling these people, they're not going to be pushing for these outer perimeter things that socialists might agree with when it comes to liberals. So when you say like a $15 an hour minimum wage or like a progressive taxation system, these are quote unquote socialist policies because they're mentioned in the Communist Manifesto, you don't need communism or socialism to talk about either of those issues. And what I don't like is this weird game that's played where somehow socialists are allowed to no true Scotsman every single good thing that our capitalist liberal society has produced and say, oh, well, you like vacation days? That actually came from socialism. You like a minimum wage? That came from socialism. You like labor unions? That came from socialism. And every bad and shitty thing is ascribed to the capitalist part, despite the fact that that's what's even creating the necessary prerequisite wealth to even have these other things.
I mean, the no true Scotsman.
Wait, Destiny, what does that have to do with? Wait, I don't know what that has to do like at all with what I just said. What I'm saying fundamentally is that I think it's sensible to make policy concessions to the broader socialist apparatus insofar as they're a part of the base. It sounds like you don't even.
We don't have to make a.
necessarily
That's not a
disagree with
policy concession to a socialist.
that.
It's literally not. Hold on.
Considered as such.
Wait.
It would be
Without,
considered as such.
No, absolutely not. If you got rid
Yes,
of,
it absolutely
if
would.
you got rid of all the socialists, could you still get a 15 an hour minimum wage?
Yeah.
Then it's not a policy
don't-
concession to socialism.
Wait. No. Econoboi.
Under really quick, Pisco. Destiny, even under quote unquote liberal economic frameworks, people in my replies are calling countries like the Nordic societies liberal capitalist societies, even though they do quote unquote socialist things as you would just define, like social ownership of the means of production. Like there's a lot of quote unquote socialist policies that those countries have engaged in that people are labeling as liberalism and doing these kind of things. And it's like, whatever, if we want to have narrow definitions of things, that's totally fine with me. But I think that insofar as like the socialist movement, and when we went to the topic of the debate, courting the left, right? Conceding things to the left, the broader left. I include very progressive Democrats in that who might identify as capitalists or might be misaligned in some way. That includes things like broader progressive policies, like, I mentioned the death penalty, minimum wage, things like that as well.
When I say court the left, and when I was designing this topic, maybe I could have been more clear. I'm not talking about issues that both liberals and leftists share. Like, both of them agree that we should treat kids nicely. Both of them agree that we should be kind to our neighbors, things like that. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about things that are specifically and uniquely.
So name them.
left.
So name them. So
Well,
if
no,
you're
but
fine,
like-
if
like
the only
Commodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production.
Holy fucking shit. So if
Hassan is a good example, right? The
Hassan
example-
isn't a
He is
policy.
agree.
Hassan isn't a policy. If you're talking about appealing to people, Econoboi gave you a response. He's talking about things that these people care about, socialists care about. If all
When
you're
I
talking
say
about is
Hassan, I
people,
am
Okay.
talking about
No.
Holy
Okay,
shit.
so I'm going to say something that pisses me off about this conversation. Oh, somebody else started talking. I'm going to roll my eyes. Shut the fuck up, Pisco. Take your eyeballs and fucking shut them the fuck up, okay? So saying everything good is socialism is dumb as fuck.
No one
okay?
said that.
Not what I'm doing, Connor.
Yeah,
What are you
we did.
talking
No one
about?
fucking
I
said
just listened
that,
to it.
dipshit.
Hey, shut the fuck
No
up.
one
I listened
fucking
to you
said that,
blocks for the
dipshit.
past 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Shut the
but we
fuck
didn't
up.
straw
Shut
man
the
the
fuck
shit
up.
out of you,
Shut
Connor.
the
You're
fuck
being
up.
an idiot.
You're a fucking
All right, shut
idiot,
the
dude.
fuck
He
up.
didn't say that. No one said that.
My turn. I have the talking stick. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So saying like, oh, a minimum wage is socialist. Progressive taxes is socialist. Firefighters is socialist. Police are socialist. Teachers are socialist. This is the kind of fucking bullshit that is the obfuscation that I'm talking about, where you're basically talking about normie, lib, governmental policies that are perfectly conducive to a free market fucking state. And you're like, oh, it's just a gradation of the economics. Well, why don't we just go with the right-wing definition of socialism, where socialism is when the government does anything ever
Okay,
whatsoever.
so,
Then at
Connor,
that point,
yeah,
I'm a
You're not
socialist.
listening. You're not
Fucking
listening.
So, Connor,
J.D. Vance is a socialist.
give it to
Everybody's a fucking socialist.
Hold on. Give it to Pisco and Econoboi to respond.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
Econoboi specifically didn't say that. I'll let Econoboi do, but you're just not listening. But I want to talk
Yeah,
after Econoboi.
so just to be clear, again, I'm grounding everything that I'm saying in the actually existing people that call themselves socialists and call themselves very, very
If there's a
progressive.
good
now,
policy, we
if I
should
could
do
just
it
finish,
regardless of
Connor,
whether
with
we're
all the
listening.
bullshit about interrupting.
listening.
So
No, I heard it.
okay. Well, you interrupted, so just give me a second here. I'm grounding this in the
You want
actually
Adderall.
existing people that call it socialism, that call it whatever, very progressive capitalism or very progressive like policies in general, right? So insofar as you're saying, oh, my narrow definition of socialist policies is decommodification of labor and the socialization of the means of production, then to be fair, according to me and according to some other policies that have been proposed, that is like almost exactly what we would be doing.
Give us an example, just an
wait,
example
actually,
of-
wait,
hold on, stop,
no, wait, can I ask a question just real quick?
I didn't come here to play the no true Scotsman.
Wait, also wait, not the policy game. I'm just curious because
I'm doing the exact opposite.
Okay, wait. Econoboi keeps bringing up like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Can you name somebody in the media environment that identifies as a socialist that is friendly towards the Democratic Party?
Like in the
is that
mainstream
relevant?
Anybody in the media environment.
Why is that relevant to the
Because
conversation? You want to change the
politicians,
conversation?
I don't want to change the conversation because politicians have to operate within the very real world of trying to get elected. So necessarily their positions are going to be probably a bit more constrained. And also these are people that, I mean, maybe Connor has, but I don't shit on AOC or Bernie Sanders. That was never what this conversation was ever about, like ever. Like, I'm curious, in the media environment, are there any people that identify as socialists that are friendly towards the Democratic Party in the United States of America? A single one.
Why is that relevant to whether or not the
because
Democrats
my main criticism, I'm telling you, because my main criticism is that you're saying Democrats should appeal to socialists, and you're picking the outer perimeter socialists that are the least socialist people who have won elections by being the least socialist people, saying that the outer perimeter beliefs that we're appealing to are things like a 15-hour minimum wage, which aren't even necessarily socialist policies, when the issue we have is that the central tenets of socialism, like the abolition of all free enterprise, the abolition of all private property, the destruction of the political parties in the United States of America, those are the people that are dominating the media environment. And you're asking us to appeal to those people to capture people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. I'm not worried about the AOCs and Bernie Sanders. I'm worried about the people that worked for Bernie Sanders, like your Brianna Joy Grays, or the people that are running the entire left-wing media online apparatus, which is why I'm asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party.
So if you're asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party, there's obviously a lot of those people. I just said those are 10% of the people that vote for Democrats.
Media people.
And I want to make this point because it's relevant to the conversation we're having.
Okay,
Fuck
what's your
you,
relevant
Pisco.
point?
If every time you open your fucking mouth, I go,
you guys are. It's impossible for you guys to linearize because your whole job here is to muddy the waters. When Connor was presented,
I think you're muddying the water. That's exactly what I'm going to accuse you of momentarily. So shut up.
So you were brought in. You and Rick are being brought in
Pisco,
to give cover to Destiny.
Counter.
I'm gonna offer.
Hold on.
I'm gonna offer clarity.
Stop. Peace go first, and then you can respond. Go ahead.
Clearly, with respect to policies that socialists support, if what we mean by appeal to socialists is to literally propose policies that these types of socialists would support, you guys are okay with them, certain of these policies, right? And we're just now defining what the scope of that agreement is, what the scope of that overlap is, but you don't have a problem in principle with appealing to socialists if by appealing to socialists we mean promoting policies that they like, correct?
Yeah, but that's a meaningless statement.
The policies are good.
Okay, so
well,
wait,
because the question would be, are you okay with appealing to members of the Ku Klux Klan?
They like clean drinking water.
No, wait, let him. Like, that's gonna be my follow-up. Let's say that you do like city renovations where you have clean drinking water.
So now let's actually talk about the policies and when.
No, you have to answer that question. Would you be okay with having a party that appeals to the Ku Klux Klan?
I'm okay with a party. I'm totally willing to bite bullets. You know I bite bullets. I'm totally willing with a party to appeal to members of the Ku Klux Klan if what is meant by that is appealing to common sense policies that.
Which is why. Yeah. So this is why it's a pointless question.
Wait. It's not a pointless question. It's not a pointless question because there are policies that you would consider socialist. I think under your definition, no true Scotsman definition of socialist, that maybe the Democrats should appeal. So, for example, would you be against? Do you think? First of all, that a national healthcare service is a socialist policy?
No.
Okay, can you give an example of a socialist policy?
Things that involve taking away the means of production from private owners, from capital owners, and giving that so that the workers are exclusively the ones that are in control of the means of production.
So a single-payer healthcare system, let's say a health insurance system, let's put it aside national healthcare, a single-payer healthcare system that makes it illegal or outlaws private insurance, you would not say that's socialist?
If you're talking about the government owning everything from the top down, then including the hospitals, then theoretically you could call that socialist. Some people might.
Would you or would you? Sorry. Would you call that socialist? Would you, Stephen, not Mike. Would you call that socialist? Yes or no?
I would call it a state-owned enterprise, or state-owned enterprise as socialist. I mean, like technically not really, but sure, we can say that.
Wait, is your answer that a single-payer system is not socialist? Is that what your answer is?
I wouldn't call it socialist, but if you wanted to, for the purpose of this conversation, sure.
No,
yeah.
no, I don't know. I want to know your opinion. So I'm asking your opinion. Your answer is no. Single payer is not socialist.
I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily like a social policy. You could call it if you wanted to. You could. But if you wanted to,
I'm not asking if I wanted to. I could. I'm asking your opinion.
You're not asking my opinion. You wanted to give you a yes or no answer to an incredibly complicated question about a modern economy that you just discovered 2 days ago.
Hey, dipshit. I want your opinion. I want your opinion, dipshit.
You want a yes or no?
I want your opinion.
You don't even know what the difference between a state-owned enterprise and what an actual different evolution of the mode of production even are.
Do you think single payer? Stephen, I'm not asking would someone else, could you? I'm asking you, Stephen Bonnell, do you consider single payer to be socialist?
I wouldn't call that socialist. No.
Shut up and let
No. Okay, so this is who's the no true Scotsman here? You guys were saying like the policy that most people who would absolutely consider to be socialist is not socialist. And so our working framework of socialism is only tankyism, only people who want to decommodify everything and have government ownership of everything. And it's preposterous. You're just not operating with the way people use those words.
That's great. That's literally not the argument, though. But if you wanted to argue that if we were to call it socialist and you wanted to socialize the healthcare system, the reason why you would be doing that wouldn't be because you're trying to appeal to socialists. You would say that they're not, it's called politics. I know that it's hard sometimes to keep up, but can I finish my answer? Holy shit.
Yeah,
there is a difference between doing something by, so for instance, I'm a free market capitalist, but that doesn't mean I oppose government intrusion into every single sector or even a government monopoly on things like, say, utilities, because there are some things that the free market doesn't solve for. To say that I don't think the free market solves for this, so we should have utility companies ran by the state is not the same as saying I'm appealing to fucking socialists. That is such a naive reading of politics. Shut the fuck up and let me finish. So when you ask me if a single payer system would be socialist, I might say, I guess you can consider it social if you want. The reason why I'm advocating, though, for a single payer system isn't because I'm trying to appeal to socialists. It's because I think free market capitalism cannot solve the problem.
So this is the obfuscation.
Yes or no? Yes or no? What is a woman? What is a woman? If we're doing that with socialism, we can do that. Okay, go for it. Yeah.
The obfuscation is the question.
There's no obfuscation, to be clear. You're just confused. Your confusion is not me obfuscating.
The obfuscation is as follows, and I'll identify it. The question isn't whether or not the intention behind promoting single payer system is one way or another. We're not talking about the intention behind why you propose one policy or another. We're just asking in pure semantic terms, would most people call socialized medicine, socialized healthcare, would they call it a socialist policy? And your absurd deflection on that and say, no, I would not call it socialist. I think just you're not using the terms the way people use those terms.
Here's the question. Wait. Do you think that Hassan would call it socialism?
I don't. Wait, why is that relevant?
Why is the largest left-wing streamer relevant to what mainstream thought is amongst leftists on the online media sphere? Wait, did you just say that? Hold on, wait, did you just say that?
The Communist Manifesto, that is not authoritative on socialism, but Hassan Piker is.
No, it's not. The Communist Manifesto is not authoritative on socialism.
Hassan Piker is. Hassan Piker, who you said is a fucking limousine socialist. Yeah, he's definitive on that, but not the Communist Manifesto.
Hold on, I just want to be clear. You're telling me that something that was written almost 100 years ago is more authoritative on what modern-day socialists believe than what the largest... Okay. Well, I encourage you to do more research when it comes to politics.
Let me step in here. So if we're appealing at that point, though, Destiny, if we're appealing to what people who call themselves socialists actually think, hey, the authoritative source of what socialism is the actually existing socialists today and what they believe in, right? Then in terms of whether or not we're like acquiescing or appealing to the socialist movement, then yeah, like the Bernie Sanders platform concessions of 2016 would count within that reasonable framework, that he was able to raise the minimum wage, requirement of the Democratic Party National Committee. He was able to add in things like legalizing marijuana. And so we're hopping back and forth between, oh, well, some socialists say socialism is decommodification of labor.
The difference there is Bernie Sanders is appealing to liberals. Liberals aren't trying to appeal to socialists, right?
Okay,
when Bernie Sanders recommends the legalization of marijuana, that's not socialists, right? That's Bernie Sanders trying to do something in a liberal capitalist framework. He didn't say the government needs to grow weed. Sorry, go on.
Okay, so number one, I take it that you take back the thing you said in the beginning of this debate of when do socialists ever appeal to liberals by just now saying that was an appeal to liberals.
100%.
No, because I said at the beginning, I don't really consider these people socialists. Follow the conversation, okay?
So now Bernie Sanders isn't a socialist.
I don't consider these, didn't I say at the beginning of this conversation? I don't really consider these people real socialists, no.
No, but Destiny, but what you did say was the actually existing contemporary socialists like Hassan are authoritative on what socialism is. And so people like Bernie Sanders, and if I could just finish my point, fuck's sake, if people like Bernie Sanders and people like Mamdani and people like AOC say things like publicly owned grocery stores and single-payer healthcare systems and the expansion of a public education are socialist policies, then we have to agree with them, or at least we have to say that they're a major influence on what it means to be a socialist policy under your own framework.
No, and I would like an opportunity to speak.
No, I want Destiny to really clarify that really quick. Just like, does that make sense?
I can't even finish saying anything without somebody screaming at me.
My hand on my dick and balls for the next 10 minutes. So I would like an opportunity to speak.
Hold on.
You guys can go back to yelling at each other.
Counterpoints, please. Destiny was asked a direct question. I'm going to let him give a
Okay, and then Connor should go right over me. Okay, listen, I don't think that you look to the lawmakers in a democratic system to see who your ideological thought leaders are for certain movements in the United States necessarily, okay? They're running in certain districts, and they're running under the confines of trying to operate within some electoral system so that they can get stuff done. I think that if you want to have this argument right now of like, does Bernie Sanders and AOC dictate what socialism is in the United States? Honestly, when you say it, maybe when Pisco said it, I'm not sure what plan he's on right now, okay? But when you say it to Econoboi, I think you genuinely believe that, and I don't think you're saying that like with stupidity, and I don't think you're saying that with malice, and I don't think you're a secret tanky or anything like that, okay? I understand what you're saying there, and I want to agree with you, but the problem is that when I go outside, let me explain where the comments come from. The problem is that when we go outside of where Econoboi is, there is nobody in the United States media environment, okay, that like calls themselves like really like a socialist that would look to people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and say, oh yeah, those are socialists. They would call those people stepping stones in the radicalization funnel and good like liberal capitalists at the end of the day, which is why these are some people that get the most.
This is what you want. Hassan.
Hold on.
I want to turn.
Go ahead.
I want to turn because frankly, you guys are talking past each other, okay? The reason why I've reiterated my definition of socialism as narrow and tailored is because I'm not doing no true Scotsman, okay? I'm telling you what a fucking Scotsman is. It's a Scottish person from fucking Scotland, okay? It's a dude, he wears a kilt, he has his fucking dick out all the time, all right? So, the point is, I'm describing very specifically what it is. And the reason why I would be pissed about universal health care or high quality education being labeled socialist is, number one, I think most committed socialists who have read any books about socialism wouldn't agree with that definition. And the only way that I would stretch it is if you considered universal health care or universal access to health care as a part of the decommodification of basic human needs, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure was just food, water, and shelter. But what I'm saying is that the reason why I think that Econoboi and Pisco, whether they like it or not, are useful fucking idiots for committed socialists and tankies and communists is because they fucking muddy the definitions. They fucking blur it around. They're just like, oh yeah, every public service is fucking socialist.
Connor, give us one example, therefore. Give us one example of a socialist policy. Go.
Making food, water, and shelter available to human beings at the point of service for free.
So you think so? Why is that socialist, but doing the same thing with health insurance isn't? And it's because one is basic human needs.
Because I'm going based on because I'm going off of the fucking definitions of shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so healthcare is not a basic human need, but food is.
All you're arguing is that healthcare is.
I'm asking a question. I'm actually asking you a question. Is food more of a human need than healthcare is, as you're seeing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I think that's cooked. I think that's fucking cooked and arbitrary. I don't think you can point.
Wait. I gotta ask because this is background. Wait. I need to know. Hold on.
Everybody needs
Pisco,
healthcare.
do you think that healthcare is as important as food?
No, I think food is more important than healthcare.
Okay, so you agreed with Connor there. I don't know why you just said Connor was cooked.
No. Wait, no. You're cooked in that I would consider, I think most people consider in basic human necessity need healthcare as well as food. Not that food is more important.
You asked him which was more important, didn't you? Did I miss that? Hold on, wait. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm appealing to the moderator. Did he ask which one was more important, or did he say we're both important?
He asked which is more important.
Thank you. Okay, he did. So you just totally mischaracterized Connor's point there.
No.
You did.
Is it more of in the sense of is it more of a basic? Is it more of a basic human necessity in the sense that it's a separate category of thing, that there are separate categories that, food is a basic human necessity in a way that
you don't need to cope. You can just
hold on. Also, it doesn't. Hold on. Wait. Just to be clear, because you're trying to bail yourself out. It doesn't make sense what you just said. Is something more of this in a category, or is it just in the category? Those are two.
No, it makes sense.
Is a Ford Focus more of a car than a Honda Civic is a car? That doesn't make any fucking sense. No, he tried to catch Connor. He fucked up. He realized what he said was fucking retarded, and now he's trying to walk it back with the word game. That's what's happening right now.
This is all weaselness.
It's a word game.
This is all weaselness.
It is weaselness. We agree with that. We all agree on that.
So when you say the word a basic human necessity, All right, a basic human necessity. In what respect is food a basic human necessity with respect that healthcare is not? And I'm trying to see what are the metrics by which you assess healthcare to be more of a basic human necessity.
I would like to answer this question.
Wait, stop. I'm clarifying. No, wait, I'm clarifying. So just because I say something is more important, and I'm going to get Destiny to agree with this, just because something is more important, I consider something to be more important, doesn't mean it's more of a basic human necessity, yes or no?
Who?
Steven.
You're turning over your words. You just said again. You said more of a basic human necessity, but what you mean to say it doesn't belong in the category of basic human necessity.
Wait, Steven. Is the term basic human necessity and important the same?
No.
Okay, so saying something along the spectrum of basic human necessity and importance, those are different questions,
we're
right?
Debating whether or not.
Steven, are they different questions or not?
Those are different words. I don't even know what you're asking right now.
So is something on the spectrum of basic human necessity the same spectrum of importance? Because importance can encompass more than just something that's basic human necessity.
It can be more important along the spectrum, sure.
Okay, so so there's no contradiction, right? Can you identify a contradiction?
No, Vegan Gains, sir. I cannot identify a contradiction.
Okay. So I don't want to debate
if food was more important than healthcare, and you said yes. You said that was cooked, and then you tried to pretend it was a category question. But
I don't think it's interesting to debate whether or not Pisco got dunked on just now. Okay, I want to go back to what Destiny said previously, which I thought was pretty interesting. So Destiny made the claim that the people that he would look to determine who are the ideological thought leaders of socialists, like people who label themselves as socialists, wouldn't be people necessarily like Bernie Sanders or Mamdani or AOC. Now, I would say this is pretty absurd for a number of reasons, okay? If we look at, hey, when people go and have public events, right? Like, hey, Hassan goes and has a public event. How many people show up? I'd say maybe a few hundred. Maybe he gets into the 1,000 plus club or something. When AOC and Bernie Sanders go out and have an event, thousands of people show up. They can fill stadiums, fill arenas. When people actually go out and express their political views, what are my political views? Millions of people voted for Bernie Sanders. Hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people across the country, vote for Democratic Socialist politicians. And so when we look at Democratic Socialists and Socialist politicians, they are clearly, by ideological standpoint and by their propensity to collaborate within Democratic Party frameworks and electoralism, much different than Hassan and much more emblematic of the standard by which we should judge people who label themselves as socialists in this country.
Then why did I got a quick. So hold on. I'm sorry. Why didn't the DSA then endorse AOC?
Because she came out with that vote on for the national DSA. Retracted their vote because of the Iron Dome vote that AOC took.
So seems like kind of a problem. Then seems like just identifying
that's not
yourself.
A socialist. That's not a socialist.
The DSA is not socialist.
Destiny, you're obfuscating.
It's a bad example.
The point is not.
It's a horrible example.
No. Please go, Destiny. 1 second. The reason I say you're obfuscating is because my point was not that, for instance, within DSA, within all of these different Democratic Socialist politicians, even within those people, Mamdani is not the same as AOC, and no one DSA member is the same as any other one. Okay?
We're not talking about one DSA member. The national DSA did not endorse AOC. The woman who runs as a Democrat in the Democratic Party.
They did endorse Mamdani. Okay, they did endorse many other Democratic Socialist candidates. I understand.
Sure, but you're talking about your most popular.
If I could just finish,
yeah.
I understand that there is an exception to the general rule of Democratic Socialists, like the organization endorses, different people who call themselves Democratic Socialists. But that's not an argument against my fundamental point, which is that when we agglomerate all of the people who call themselves socialists and run for parties and have people come out and vote for them and support them, that is a fundamentally different group of people on average by the normal distribution of their beliefs than people like Hassan. And I think that we should judge them by who they vote for more so than by, Hassan, basically.
Yep.
I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, Destiny, agree. You agree then. Okay, well then, thank you.
Okay, counterpoints.
All
go
right.
ahead.
I love you, Counter.
Okay. I think what happened with socialism was that if you actually go back to Bernie Sanders in the fucking 80s and the 70s, he was doing apologia for Cuba. He was doing apologia for the Soviet Union. He did apologia for Venezuela in the fucking 90s and thousands. And you know what happened? Each one of those places ended up being absolute fucking shitholes. So what he had to do, is he had to move to social democratic models in the Scandinavian system and abandon his previous hardcore shit. But there's a question of whether or not social democrats are actually just hiding their power level because they're trying to inculcate a left-wing philosophy.
Connor?
I'm not done yet.
Who cares?
Let's Connor finish.
Shut up. Why is it relevant? This is the entire conversation. The entire conversation is whether or not social democracy.
The entire conversation is your
Trojan horse
conspiracy
in
theory
order to
about
infiltrate
socialists.
the center left. That's the whole fucking
Okay,
conversation.
so you're just you're asserting a conspiracy without much evidence. You're just saying, Bernie actually conspiratorially supports things like Cuba and the Soviet Union, and he didn't have any genuine changes of opinion.
Ideas. He might have
Just
moved
real
off
quick.
of hardcore.
Hold on, just real quick. Like the
But
idea.
Hassan hasn't.
Hold on, just real quick.
Second thought hasn't.
Hold on, stop. The idea that
even the worst
CounterPoints is
behaved here.
expressing is that there are leftists who have said explicitly that their goal is to infiltrate the Democratic Party to move it towards leftism. It is not a conspiracy in the sense of it's crazy. It is a conspiracy in the sense that these people have said, this is what we're going to do, this is our goal for doing it, and this is how we're going to do it.
Is that relevant to our discussion?
It's
Why is that
relevant to the discussion because should we, the Democrats, allow or invite into our house as influencers, invite into our house as staffers, invite into our house as people we will engage with or collaborate with in a friendly way? Should we be doing that when we know that this is their goal?
I'll answer the question directly. So it's only it's only quote unquote a problem insofar as it's aggregately true of the 10% of the Democratic Party base that's actually engaged in that process. Now I understand that that's that we don't have a poll that says how many of you are engaged in this kind of like Manchurian candidate fucking like conspiracy, whatever the fuck like Connor's describing. But I would say that generally speaking, when I look at the actions of Democratic Socialists who win elections, when I look at the actions of Democratic Socialists and the platforms of them, they don't seem to be secret tankies. Now, I would agree that there are certain people, like people reference Hassan, like Hassan has said, oh, like I want liberals. Well, okay, yeah. Oh, people reference other left-wing alternative media influencers. Oh, sure, okay, like whatever. People reference people like that, and sure, yeah, to the extent that those people have like literally on record said that they're just trying to obfuscate issues and engage in this kind of, like conspiracy or whatever, then I've already said at the very beginning of this debate that people like that probably shouldn't be invited into the inner party and be given platforms in Democratic Party circles. That's obviously true. That's trivially true.
As I understand the disagreement here is that, and again, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but Destiny and CounterPoints think that you are allowing this to happen. Like,
no, hang on a second.
But they're saying
the disagreement is all semantic bullshit. Connor, is China a communist country or a socialist country?
Is what?
Is China a socialist country?
Are they moneyless, stateless, or classless?
No, they have classes.
No, then they're not.
Okay. Is there any socialist country in the world right now?
I don't think anybody has like.
So who's no true Scotsman? So tell me, who's no true Scotsman?
I'll answer your question. No. Don't pretend you have a good point. You don't. Okay. Socialists. This is actually fundamental to my perspective. Socialists are fucking retarded, and they can't implement their worldview. Hold on. And they can't implement their worldview into the real world. So if you look at the 20th century, there's something called vanguard Marxism or Marxist Leninism. And they have these things called vanguard parties that take over countries and turn them into shitholes. And so we have people like Hakeem, Second Thought, Hassan Piker, who tried to sweep this history away. No, I'm telling you the truth. And these are the people
you're just monologuing, old man.
Econoboi and you are useful idiots for.
No. So under your vision, right? Single payer is not socialist. There's no socialist country. Socialism has never been done.
Because I'm using the definitions that socialists themselves use.
But by the way, and I'm sure, Stephen.
Pisco, you think you have a judgment, you have nothing. You're actually speaking from a perspective of ignorance. Go ahead and finish your point. I'll let you finish your point, but I'm going to tell you why you're speaking from a position of ignorance momentarily.
So I just want to acknowledge, Stephen, you acknowledge that what Connor just said is fucking so stupid as to be.
No, Pisco, you fucking idiot. You're speaking from a position of ignorance.
The issue is that like this. No, this is.
So I'm asking a question to Stephen.
You're speaking from a position of ignorance.
Stephen, do you agree?
You're speaking from a position of
ignorance.
ignorance.
Then let him demonstrate that. Stop. CounterPoints. Let him demonstrate.